Okay. All right. We're live. Good evening, everybody. It's July 13th, 2021 for tonight's Halifax and West Community Council. As always, we'll do a quick roll call, starting with Councillor Morse.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and colleagues. Live from Clayton Park.
Councillor Cuddle.
Good evening, everyone. I'm coming to you live from Purcell's Cove, representing Spryfield, Sambro, and Prospect Road.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
All present and correct here in Halifax, South Downtown. Just enjoying the sound of the skateboarders cruising by outside. That you can probably hear that. It's quite loud. It's awesome.
Hey, Councillor Clear.
Hello, Mr. Chair. I'm actually transitioning, just got home with my 15-year-old from swimming, and will be down on my computer in a moment. So hello, everyone, representing Halifax West Armdale.
Hey, as long as you're here, that's the main thing. Thank you. And Councillor Stoddard sent her regrets for tonight's meeting. So I ask that we approve the minutes for June 22nd. Get a motion from Councillor.
I'll move to approve that.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Cuddle, second by Councillor
I'll
Mason.
second it.
Okay. Councillor Morse, try to pull the Steve Adams. Just didn't work in that moment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Seeing none. Approval of order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Do we have anything, Ms. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is no addition for today's meeting.
Thank you. Anything from colleagues? Seeing none. All right. Approve the agenda as presented. A mover and a seconder, please.
Move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Moved by
Second, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Cleary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay. That passes. Business arising on the minutes. There are none. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any? Seeing none. Motion to reconsideration. None. Motions of rescission. There are none. Consideration of deferred business. None. Those of table matters. There are none. There's no public hearings this evening, but don't think you're getting off easy because our next meetings will have plenty. And correspondence. Are there any correspondence, Ms. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correspondence was received and circulated for item 13.1.5, and there was also one piece of general correspondence received.
Thank you very much. Any petitions from members? None. Presentations we do have. So 11.3.1 presentation by Mr. Stephen Adams himself, the Executive Director of Urban Development Institute of Nova Scotia. And I believe Steve is here. Yes, I do see his name. Welcome, Mr. Adams. You have 10 minutes to present. And whenever we see you, the floor will be yours.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I can assure you this will not take 10 minutes. It's the Reader's Digest version. This will be, sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
Wait, did Steve learn how to use PowerPoint? Oh, I'm sorry. Carry on.
No, I didn't. No, this isn't me. I'm just trying to bring up, there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, way, you give me too much credit. I didn't do this. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of Community Council. And I apologize in advance to Councillor Mason, Cleary, and Smith. You've seen this before, a version of it, but I assure you this will be less than 2 minutes. Next slide, please. These are our team members. I'm the fellow on the left, and Rob Norwood is our Member Services Coordinator. Rob used to work at Pavia in Herring Cove, so Councillor Cutt is very familiar with that shop. It's a wonderful little cafe, and Rob is now working with us and helping keep everybody on the straight and narrow, and doing a very good job doing PowerPoint presentations. Next slide, please. So we have a mission, and that is that to work with the government, which generally it's HRM, to ensure that policies that are working with land development are fair, consistent, and responsible in a fiscal manner. And what this means is that our members can deliver high quality, affordable development for the residents. Next slide, please. The Urban Development Institute of Nova Scotia is affiliated with UDIs across the country. And I'm in the process now of trying to put together a network right across the country so that we can share ideas and figure the best way to serve our members and also the residents that benefit. And it's the UDI is the largest and most recognized voice of land development in the province. The members are all those you see, plus a bunch more. And as you can see, highlighted, HRM is a member of UDI. Next slide, please. So we have 17 developer members, 18 professional members, and the professional members are consultants, engineers, surveyors, architects, anyone involved in the development industry, and the government suppliers, as previously mentioned, HRM, Nova Scotia Power, Kent Building Supplies, and a few others. Next slide, please. So the HRM-wide issues that we've been dealing with are under affordable housing, and I will say that Halifax West Community Council, with the leadership of Councillor Cuddle, is responsible now for 46 units. That was the Lynette Road project that you approved, and we have some more coming. And I want to bring out one point there in the CMPs on the left-hand side, the construction management plan. They are simply contracts that builders or developers sign with the municipality that they'll abide by certain rules. And I was contacted by Peter Duncan telling us that there were some issues with some of the CMPs and the companies weren't abiding by them. So we put a letter together, sent to all of our members and the members of UDI, Construction Association, the Home Builders Association, and the Road Builders Association. And the letter went to all members so that they were warned and told that you need to abide by these, because every time an HRM staff person has to go to a site, that's one less staff person available to process permits. Next slide, please. So how we can help council and staff and ultimately the residents that we all serve, we can offer insight from industry perspective to issues that come forward and offer solutions. We're not here to criticize policies. We're here to offer a perspective that may help and formulate policy that will work for everybody. And our members of UDI and myself, we are available to address any concerns that you have that may arise at any time. Next slide, please. And thank you. We do appreciate your work and everyone and the work you're doing with regard to everybody you serve. I can assure you that your efforts do not go unnoticed. I know that our members appreciate the hours you put in and the decisions you make, and some of them are quite tough, and we know that. There's some contact information there. If you have any questions, I'm open to them.
Thank you, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Are there any questions from members? Not seeing anyone put their hand up. I have two really quick ones, and they might be quick answers. I'm just wondering from your members, have you heard from them regarding package A and implementation of that? Because there's a different process now where you can put a permit in, and as long as you meet the rules, you can start building. So I'm wondering if you heard from members whether that process has been working well, or if there could be improvements. And the last one and the other one I had, I'll ask them both at the same time, and it just left me, but something you said, I'm getting old now. It will come back to me after.
Well, regarding the center plan and package A, we've been in quite frequent contact with Ben Sivak and with Eric Lusick. They have been simply outstanding when we've had questions. We had a meeting with them last week. We've had, and that was an in-person meeting, and we've had some virtual meetings as well. And I can't begin to say how impressed I am with their openness and their availability. And Eric went so far as to say, if you have a member that has a question about, site-specific plan or any of these issues, call him, email him, whatever, and he will respond. And my experience with him is that he responds within an hour. And I know that's greatly appreciated. And I did mention the in-person meetings. We're going to have some in-person meetings here available, perhaps a get-together with members of council. We're only about a 92-second walk from City Hall. We're at 1718 Argyle Street, so we're pretty close by.
Okay, great. The other one was, do you hear from your members at all regarding the online portal that is being used to accept applications? I know we've had some technical hiccups and staff are doing their best to address it, but I'm just wondering if your members come to you with concerns of collecting online permits.
I said this is only going to be a 2-minute presentation, so it's been challenging to say the least.
Okay.
We've had members that have, I talked to a guy today. He had submitted an application and they were continually being asked for more information. He said it's all in the package. No, it's not. Well, 23 days later, they found it in a folder that someone had forgotten to open.
Okay.
So it was all there. It's just that the staff person wasn't aware. Everyone's learning still. It is a process, and it's a bit frustrating, but we'll get through it, and we're open to help.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's helpful. Just wondering if your members are also showing concern. So that's a good example. Nobody else has their hand up for questions. Again, oh, yes, Councillor, of course. Councillor Gatto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Steve, for the presentation. It is great to be able to see an organization that brings together partners across, the public sector and the private sector, working toward, solving problems with solving problems and coming up with solutions for doing development in our city. And I'm just wondering, we saw the membership, but I'm just wondering, does the board reflect the membership? I'm not sure who's on the board.
Yes, on the board, just off the top of my head, there's most are development members, but and there's financing. I'm just going through this in my head here. And in fact, the banking, CBRE is represented on the board. A couple of larger developers. We have yet to have a builder join UDI because you have the home builders, but we do engage all of the members through our committee structure, which I think we have as many committees as HRM. There's a lot of them. They all have their input and they all have an opportunity to participate. But that's a great question. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah, I doubt you have as many committees as HRM does, but if you do, you need to downsize. But I just, I had a bit of interaction in my previous job with the Urban Land Institute organization. And, one of the things I was most impressed about with that organization was the ability to bring together people from the government with developers, with not-for-profit and sectors to, really have good dialogues around the challenges facing the development of our cities and how we can work better together to solve those challenges. So I look forward to continuing to evolve and develop this relationship with UDI toward those ends. So thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor and Mr. Adams. I believe one more check from members if there's any comments or questions. Seeing none. Again, thank you for being here and presenting. I know you've been through a couple of committees, so thank you for that, and we will for sure be talking to you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, and we'll be in touch. Have a great evening.
Take care. All right, colleagues. So moving on, information items brought forward. There are none. Moving on to report. 1311 case 22396 rezoning and development agreement for land off Elm Grove Avenue in Myra Road, Timberley. So would this have been Councillor Stoddard? Yes. Anyone want to put this on the floor for council? There's no presentation for this item.
Happy to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I move that Halifax West Community Council 1 approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially the same form as set out in intention B of the staff report dated February 17th, and 2, require that the development agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council, and request the property owner from the date of final approval by council on any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, disapproval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at end. I so move.
Second, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Mason, second by Councilor Cleary. Anything on this item?
I think, I mean, it's fine. It's pretty routine, but I just, am I the only one, Mr. Chair? Like, is 240 days longer than it used to be? Didn't it used to be 120 days?
I thought so. That's right.
Maybe staff could comment about that, because that seems like a substantial change. Why that?
I do remember us having that discussion. I think in Dean, you might fill it in, but I think it was something to do with COVID. But Dean, you can.
That's fine. We should acknowledge that on the record.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I can answer that. Through you to the councillor. Yes, you're exactly right. It's due to COVID and the delays in mailing that we've seen. So we just, as a form of gratitude and just to extend that deadline so that people can get the agreement signed and provided back to us, and then our lawyers sign it and everything done in a proper amount of time due to the delays that COVID brought to many things. So that's the reason, COVID. So
okay, that's great. Thank you.
Anything else from other colleagues at all? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those questions. Sorry. Yep, thank you. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I guess I should vote too. Sorry, that's 4. All those opposed? Seeing none. All right, that passes. Thank you, colleagues. Moving on to 13.1.2, addition of candidate route to active transportation priorities plan, Oak Street to Westmount local bikeway connection. Councilor Cleary, I'll pass it to you.
Mr. Chair. I'd love to put this on the floor. Councilor Mason and I did this at Transportation Standing Committee. It seems like forever ago. But I'll move that Halifax and West Community Council recommend that Regional Council amend the active transportation priorities plan by designating the Oak Street Westmount corridor, including 3rd Street, Arm Crescent East Drive, and Benjamin Green Drive, as a candidate local street bikeway route, and improve the walkways through Saunders Park and Peterlow to Peterlow Avenue, as described in the discussion section of the staff report dated May 18th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Cleary, second by Councilor Mason. And we have staff here for any questions of clarification. Councilor Cleary.
I see Ms. Witherby popped up there, so I don't have any questions per se, but I appreciate the thoroughness and the consideration that staff gave this. So when you look at the map, and if you've ever driven this route, a number of things will strike you. One, and I'm glad the improvement to the pathway is there. Especially all of the pathways through Westmount, most of them are in desperate need of some attention, a little TLC. And so that would be fantastic if that could happen. I'm watching the West End bike routes, the local street bikeways be created right now. Oak Street was done in the last 2 years. The intersection now at, Allen Street was done. The intersection at Allen and Oak and Oxford is being done as we speak. It's fantastic. I saw the lights being installed the last couple of days. And the bump outs are fantastic. I can't wait for it to continue down Oak Street, which is my neighborhood. And for this to then connect through, because one of the challenges we have is when you come down Oak Street, you're at Connaught. And it's like, where do you go from there? And so, looking at a route through the Arm Crescent neighborhood up to Westmount is a great idea. And I fully support this. And I'm glad Councillor Mason was contacted by some residents and friends to say, hey, how come you're not doing this? And now we're doing this. And so it's great to have this on the list. And over the next however number of years, as we continue building these local street bikeways and finally connect all of our protected bike network, this will be a great addition to the neighborhood. So I'm happy to see this go forward. Thank you very much. And just kudos to our active transportation staff who are doing great things around HRM.
Agreed. Anything from other counselors at all? Yeah, Counselor Mason.
Just to provide a little bit of color to that story, what happened is I was being interviewed at CBC in the before times when we could actually go to the studio, and I was leaving on my bike, and Felicity McGregor, who I've known since university, was leaving, and she said, "How are you getting home?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to power straight up Almond Street." And she said, "Don't do that." And she took me through this other path, which was way better. And I took it to staff and said, "How come this isn't there?" And they said, "Well, we just didn't get to identifying that before we did the AAA plan when we were going for the federal funding, and they would love to have a motion to add it. So here we are. So glad to have it here. Thank you, staff, for getting it done. I sent that to Phyllis this morning, and she laughed because I'm like, look how fast this happened. She's like, it's been 2 years.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The only thing sorry. Yes, Counselor Morse. Okay, sure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just, for my own enlightenment here, I'm wondering if staff could explain what an enhanced crossing treatment might be across Chebucto at Saunders Park. What would that look like?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of Community Council. Thanks for having me. I'm Siobhan Witherby, Active Transportation Planner with TPW. So to answer your question, Councillor Morse, the idea of considering an enhanced crossing treatment would be at Connaught and also at Chebucto. We would be looking to upgrade the existing facilities. So right now, there's the push button RA5 with the flashing lights above. That's usable by people walking and rolling, but we would be looking towards upgrading that for use by people cycling so that someone on a bike could also stop traffic and continue across. What that looks like is still in the works. It'll be investigated a lot in the functional planning process. So by adding these routes to the active transportation priorities plan, it doesn't represent direction to implement, but we would be going into a full 30% design exercise, doing public engagement to shape what those crossings would look like. We're also kind of waiting on some legislation changes that may or may not allow people on bicycles to activate a flashing beacon and ride across, or whether or not those would need to be upgraded to like a half signal where the person riding a bicycle can legally press it and have the right of way. So it would potentially stop traffic with a red light on Connaught and or on Chebucto, but that would be something that we would dive into a lot more in the functional planning process with the public and with kind of a range of internal stakeholders.
Okay, thanks. That gives me a sense of the options that you might be considering. So thank you.
Councillor Cuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, my first question was exactly the same about how the crossings are going to work, especially being so close to the stoplight. And then my second question was, and I think you've already answered it, that this kind of just puts it on the table to look at an overall, in greater detail what a functional plan would look like. Because I begin to see kind of all these pathways going, and some of them stopping and not connecting, and how that all gets resolved. So when you look at that functional plan, like you kind of reassess the whole program again and tweak it as you go. Is that how that works? It's not just looking at this one segment, but looking at the bigger picture and what needs to be added or what needs to be taken away, or how will that process work?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Councillor Cuttle. Yes, we will be kind of asking the public again if these routes that we've shown are the correct routes, the desired line that they want to go, or if we need to shift it slightly to instead go on a different street or cross at a different location. So it's an opportunity for us to confirm or adjust that as necessary. And then, yeah, we would be really diving into kind of the design and what it would look like on the ground. I agree that sort of a wider lens will be used to see how it impacts the surrounding neighborhood. And I see those concerns about it being kind of close to other stoplights and things. So we would be, considering at kind of a more neighborhood level, the way that the bikeway would move through there.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, colleague. Councillor Clear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's funny how things happen. I was picking up some flowers today where we do sort of a weekly box from a farm down in the valley. They come to Halifax. And literally, while I'm picking up my flowers, the guy who is giving them to me says, "Yeah, so I took my my 10-year-old on a bike ride, and we were going through, up to Westmount, and we couldn't get there safely." He's like, "Wasn't there some plan that you guys had about getting through the Arm Crescent neighborhood?" I was like, actually, we're talking about that tonight. And so this is something that people constantly bring up, for anyone who's trying to cycle around the urban core, and particularly through the West End. Because we do have, Chebucto Road was built as a part of the highway, from back in the 1950s and 60s. It's actually a 6-lane highway through part of it. And so at Benjamin Green, and I'll talk to Gail McLean at some point later about maybe renaming that street. I know it was only named a little while ago, but folks may not know that Benjamin Green was actually on Cornwallis's council in 1749 and named his own son Edward Cornwallis after Cornwallis because they were such close buds and liked the Scalping Proclamation so much. But anyway, that's a whole other story for another time. And so this is a really important part of our bike network. And I'm glad to see this go forward as a candidate route, and can't wait for it to finally get approved and then for us to actually build stuff like this. So thanks, everyone. I think this is a great thing.
Thank you, Counselor. So seeing no one else in the chat, wondering if you'd like to call for the question.
Question.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That passes. Thank you so much, Ms. Witherby, and I know Mr. McIsaac's in the background as well. Thank you and team for all the work they do. Moving on to 13.14 case 23482 discharge development agreement for land 2158, 2160, 2162, 2164 Windsor Street. So this is me.
Actually, sorry, Mr. Chair, is that the next one? I thought we were at 13.13.
You are right. See, this is why I keep you around as my coach here. 13.13, as you said, case 22539, amendments to stage 1 and stage 2 development agreement for phase 3 of Rockingham South at the intersection of Dunbrack Street and Ruth Goldblum Drive, Halifax. And Councillor Morse, I'll let you take this away.
Okay, can I just read it aloud into the record?
You got it.
Okay, so I move that Halifax and West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed amending stage 1 development agreement as set out in attachment A to add hotel and multiple unit residential building as permitted uses for the parcel located at the northeast corner of Dunbrack Street and Ruth Goldblum Drive, Halifax, and schedule a public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Mason. Anything on this, Councillor?
Thank you. This has been in the works for a few years. I think some of the councillors will have seen it before. The developer originally wanted a hotel at this location, and then COVID hit, and they decided maybe a hotel didn't look as promising. So they've asked to have it as an option for a multi-unit building. The proposal is they're asking for a slight increase on the size as to what it was before. So you've read that. They want to add a story. This would probably have commercial on the ground floor if it's not a hotel. And I think it's important that we do have a public hearing for this project.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments from members? Seeing none.
I do have one question for staff.
Of course.
I noticed the range of notification for a public hearing in the neighborhood is a bit limited, and I'm wondering if that could be expanded and if that needs to be done here, or if I could just request that at a later point.
Wondering if who is Megan? Oh, no, is it Megan?
Yes.
Yes, Megan. Yes, you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the counselor. Yes, I think you can put that on the table today at this meeting about expanding the notification boundary for the public hearing. Carl, if you know anything different than me, I think you're on the call too, but that's something that can happen. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So Counselor, if that's something you like to do, you could put a amendment forward do you have an area in mind, because it is prescribed in how far we go, but do you have a area? I forget, what is it? Oh, sorry, Carl. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thanks. Through you to the counselor, if you have something specific in mind, we have a minimum, but there's nothing in terms of legislation that sort of obliges us to go small or to go large. So it might be as simple as sending us an email tonight or tomorrow morning, or whenever you get a chance, to say, how about this expanded area, and we can make that happen.
Okay, thank you. I think that's what I'd like to do. I just more of Wentworth. I think I'd like to, because Wentworth is going to be funneling through where this building is going to be built. So I think I'd like to include a bit more of a range that way.
So if that's going to be the case, and you can take it offline, I'm just wondering from legal if that's something that can just be captured in the minutes, or do we need to put a motion forward as direction? Meg.
Hi, yes, Mr. Chair. I believe that can just be captured into the minutes.
Okay.
And
great.
direction can be provided to planning.
All right, excellent. So capture the minutes, and Councilor Morris will reach out to the good folks in planning to discuss the notification.
Yeah, thank
you.
you.
Motion. All right, no motion is needed. Anything further from you, Councilor?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. What about other members? No? All right, call for the question.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to our next item, actually this time, 1314 case 23482, discharge development agreement for lands at 2158, 2160, 2162, and 2164 Windsor Street, Halifax. Who's closest?
I'm going to put that on the floor for you, Mr. Chair.
Please and thank you.
I move that Halifax and West Community Council, 1, approve by resolution the discharging agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of this report, and 2, require the discharging agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
Thank you, Councillor.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Mason.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just have a quick question for staff. I briefly read through this, and essentially when we just discharge a development agreement, especially on a site like this, which has been rezoned now corridor, so essentially that just says if they want to do anything, because we're not typically, depending on what it is, allowing for new development agreements in the rezoned center, urban core. So this would now just allow for as of right development under the package A center plan that we passed back in 2019.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. That's correct. They would proceed under the new rules under center plan package A.
Awesome. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Councillor. And that was going to be my first point for colleagues. The second, and I don't know if it's worth for our new-ish members, I wouldn't say you're new now at this point, but our newest members, would it be worthwhile? Because I think this is our first discharge that we've seen at Halifax West since you've been here. Would it be worth for you to get an idea of why we do discharges, and if staff could kind of give you a discharge 101 really quickly? Would that be helpful at all for you?
Sure. It's always a good opportunity to learn.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Megan, if you don't mind, just giving a quick discharge 101 for our new members so they understand what they're voting on.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to the rest of the councillors. So with with an agreement on the property, and I'll speak to this case to kind of provide some context. The agreement allows them to only do a limited number of things. And in that agreement, there is a clause near the end, and that's standard in our agreements, that allows council to discharge the agreement under different circumstances. And so in this case, in order for the applicant to do anything different beyond what's permitted in the existing agreement, in this case, they wanted to do something that's permitted under the current zoning, they have to put in a request to discharge that agreement. And so in order to do that, it has to come back through council, and we have to go through this whole process of writing the staff report and bringing it back to council to take it off the property so that they can then proceed under the current land use bylaw regulations.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks again. So there's nobody in the chat, and I don't think there's any further questions on this item. Most of the information was in the report, and Councilor Cleary highlighted the piece that I want to highlight. So I have nothing further on this item, and if that is it, we call for the question.
Question.
Can call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to our next item, which is 1315 case 22927 development agreement for 2032 to 2050 Roby Street, Halifax. Yeah, please, thank you.
I move that Halifax West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A to permit a mixed-use multi-unit residential and commercial building and schedule a public hearing. I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Cleary. This is public hearings. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have one question just on the.
Sure.
We have several public hearings we're scheduling now. I wonder if the clerk can speak to the schedule of the public hearings with so many that we're scheduling and it being July. When can we expect these hearings to come before us?
Great question. Ms. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the councilors. So some of the items have to be before the Halifax and West before September 17th. So today I actually sent out the new scheduling invite for September 7th. So that's the addition. Just to make sure that the Halifax and West can deal with all the items before the deadline that is required for the center plan transition policy. So right now, in consultation with the chair, and all of this will be on Chronicle Herald at the later date. But case 22115 and 20520 is aiming to come forward at the August 24th. And then case 20761 and 22927 for September 7th. And then for case 23186 and case 22539 for September 21st. However, this is still a plan, and actual official announcement to the public will be made through the Chronicle Herald advertisement.
Thank you very much, Haruka, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Cuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think if I heard Haruka correctly, this is coming forward in the beginning of September. I do want to note that we did receive some correspondence on this, and there were concerns about the entryway into the building and the loading and unloading, and that that this had actually been discussed at the, what was the meeting that preceded this one for this application?
Planning Advisory.
Planning Advisory Committee. I was just wondering if anyone could shed a bit more light on the conversation that was had at that committee meeting and what the concerns were. And, in terms of us having a vote here and now to move forward, what process will be for the public to continue to have input into this. And if there's any if there's any intent to address some of these concerns.
Thank you, Councilor Mason. You said you'll.
Well, so I was.
PAC.
Thank you. Yeah, I was on that committee and I was on that vote, and I want to point out that the majority of the committee actually did not share those concerns. Margot and another person had those concerns, and the issue was that she felt that there should be a lay-by, that you should be able to drive into the site and get off of Roby to drop people off, and both the planners and the rest of the committee felt that would not be required, that could be adequately accommodated in the street despite the bus lane. As far as that goes, the motion failed. The recommendation was not made. The Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation is to go ahead with what's here now. What first reading is it's this council saying we are comfortable with what is in front of us and we believe it's the right thing, and then we put it out for what is essentially Hail Mary last gasp comments from the public, because we've already had a very long engagement process when you're doing a development agreement or anything of this nature. So if compelling arguments were made at second reading by the public, we could vote to amend it. We would then have to have another public hearing, schedule another public hearing if it was a substantive change. But again, this was a minority opinion that wasn't supported by the majority of people on the Planning Advisory Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cotto?
Thank you, Councillor Mason. So I'm just wondering then if staff can explain how the drop off and pickup and deliveries at this site can be accommodated, given that there is a bus lane here.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, I'm happy to comment on that. So this is a bit of a challenging site because you are on Roby Street, where it is quite a busy street, and now there is that transit lane that's going to be right in front of the development. So what had been discussed was bringing that lay-by lane in onto the site, and that we didn't think was appropriate where it's such a high pedestrian environment. We didn't want vehicles pulling up on the sidewalk. So in the underground parking area, there is space to accommodate loading and delivery vehicles. And so that's been incorporated into the interior design of the building. And all of that will be flushed out during the detailed design at the permitting stage. But that's something that we had a lot of conversations with, where you're limited to access only via Roby Street. And we want to get those loading and delivery vehicles off the site, and so it's underground is what we've proposed, because the transit lanes won't allow for vehicles to stop during the day there.
Right, and I mean, I've witnessed this on Gottingen Street too, where we do see, despite saying don't park, there's emergency vehicles on the sidewalks regularly. I see delivery vehicles on the sidewalks regularly. We see like contractors who might be doing work in the building and have equipment on their trucks that they need to, power up or, somehow connect to, parking on the sidewalk. So, I actually do share this concern in how we accommodate when we kind of look at this maximum. I'm assuming that this building is coming right out to the sidewalk with just, the required setback, which is not enough to really accommodate a vehicle. But that, in theory, we say it's supposed to work one way. In reality, that's not the way that things are working. And I think Gottingen Street is a great example of where, in theory, it's simply not working, and the pedestrian environment is severely impacted by not accommodating for deliveries or vehicles to stop. So in this case, I mean, if it is commercial along the bottom, where would the delivery cars be accommodated?
Mr. Chair, through you to the councillor. The delivery vehicles will be accommodated in the underground parking area, and then there is access up through elevators and staircases. And that will be sorted out in more detail at the permitting stage.
So that's for businesses as well, like the delivery of goods.
Yes.
Okay, well that I haven't seen. Is there another example where that works in Halifax, or where we have something similar, just for reference?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Right. Okay. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I you know, I do think and I wasn't at the other committee meeting, but I do hear the concerns, and I understand why those concerns are there, and because again, reality doesn't always match theory. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments from members at all?
Question.
Oh, 1 second. I don't see Councillor Moore. So I'm just wondering if we lost her.
See her either.
She just texted me. I thought it was an older text that she, what exactly did it say? I can't get into the meeting. Go ahead without me. I hadn't looked. I just saw the pop-up happen. So yeah,
Okay,
that's what she's saying.
So thank you for that, Councillor. We still got quorum, so we'll go ahead. So the only comment that I'll make just related to what your initial question, Councillor Cotto, is around the access, because there also was concerns around pedestrian access, because there's only pedestrian access on Roby Street. And I was trying to find the email and I couldn't find it, and also listen at the same time. But the applicant, who can probably speak to it at the public hearing, they will see and discuss possibilities of having pedestrians be able to access from other sides of it, because they do own the other properties behind this building. So there might be some way in the future that they can accommodate that, but we'll wait for the public hearing, and then the applicant can kind of speak more to the pedestrian aspect piece, because that was a question from the PAC as well as couldn't there be more than one pedestrian access other than just Roby Street. So we can have that discussion when we get to the hearing if that works.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, just want my concerns noted now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so questions been called earlier. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, seeing none, that passes. Let me get my screen back up here. All right, moving on to our next item, which is from the Heritage Advisory Committee, 1321 case 23186. Thank you, Megan. 23186, development agreement to allow multi-unit residential addition to a municipally registered heritage property at 1029 South Park Street, Halifax. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Halifax and West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the May 14th, 2021 staff report to allow for 2.5-story building unit residential addition to an existing heritage building located at 1029 South Park Street, and schedule a public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cotto. We'll give that to you. Anything on that, Councillor?
Nope, I'll save it for the public hearing.
All right. Question on that item?
Question?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Seeing none. All right, that is it. Moving on to our next item, which is 13.2.2 case 22115, development agreement to allow mixed unit residential building on registered heritage property at 2438 Goddison Street, Halifax. Now this would be me. I'm wondering, Councilor Mason, you can read this.
I can do that for you, Mr. Chair, if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I got the next one, so he can do this one.
All right, great. Thank you.
I'll move that Halifax and West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the June 15th, 2021 report to allow a 13-story multi-unit residential building to be built on a registered heritage property located at 2438 Goddison Street, Halifax, and schedule a public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor. Seconded by Councilor Mason. Anything, Councilor?
Just very quickly, I'm not going to open my file. I'm pretty sure this is the Victoria Paul
Yeah.
Head shakes. Okay. So, this is one that we've seen several times over the last few years as it's gone through different evolutions, cutting it down, making it in heritage planner speak subordinate to the heritage building up front. And I think we finally hit on something that our heritage planners and heritage committee and our staff think is a good thing to have. Allows for more density, allows for the restoration of Victoria Hall, and still through massing and materials, makes as much as you can something behind something like this subordinate to it. So I think this is a good thing to go and will not only add density, but actually rejuvenate a part of Gottingen Street and a very historic building that definitely needs some TLC. So I'll support this and move it to a public hearing to see what the public thinks of it.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Anything from other members at all? Seeing none, really quickly, if possible, and I know Mr. Morgan is here, similar to what Councillor Morris asked for, this might be one where we extend the notification area a little bit, just due to the area and some of these sensitivities around it. So I'm wondering if we could do that similar. We could take it offline and kind of look at what's currently notification area and maybe expand it if possible. But is that something you're interested in?
Through you, Mr. Stand-in Chair, to the Mr. Chair, I would be more than happy to investigate that with you. We can certainly expand the notification area if you like.
Okay,
and we can
great.
discuss.
All right, appreciate that so much. All right, well, we'll capture that in the minutes, and I know you will reach out because you are great to do that. So we'll leave it that way. Question on this item?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. All right, seeing none, moving on to the next one, which I believe is also heritage, yes. 13.2.3, case 20761, development agreement for land fronting Roby Street, Cobble Street, and Carlton Street, Halifax.
Case 20761. Yeah, I move that Halifax and West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in Section A of the June 9th, 2021 report to enable a mixed-use development on lands fronting Roby, College, Carlton, and schedule a public hearing.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mason, second by Councillor Cuttle. Councillor Mason.
I have a comment and a question, and I'll save the rest of it for the public hearing because we shouldn't be putting in our 2 cents until after the hearing. But my comment to the public would be, as I indicated in the Herald, that what was approved by council when we made the NPS amendments and what is before us is substantially different. Very, very different from what was originally brought to the public. So I think it's really important for people to comment on it, that they go and have a look at the new drawings and the new renderings that are on the website and in the report, because it is very different from what we were discussing almost 3 years ago. And then to staff, my question is because there's a heritage component, is there another motion coming, or is this the only enabling motion for a public hearing on the entire site, or is this just about the heritage part? To me, it wasn't clear from reading the report in the motion, which I will admit I skimmed because I had a lot of reading to do the last 3 days.
Well, Mr. Sims, I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you. Weird. No, I can see you speaking. Maybe the little error on the microphone, change your microphone.
So while we're doing this, who else is excited to get back to City Hall and meeting in person? This guy.
Giving it all the good.
I am so sick of this.
As of tomorrow, you can have 25 people over to your house.
Well, if we call ourselves a sports team, we can have 50 people at a practice or a game. So I think we're getting to the place where we could open up chambers again as of tomorrow.
Can we get jerseys?
No.
I hope not. Is there a manager who might speak on behalf of Mr. Sims, who clearly is having technical difficulties?
Oh,
Sure,
Hey,
I'm
Kate.
here. Good evening. I'll put my glasses on. Tyson, you're having trouble there. Yes, no, as far as I'm aware, this is all that's needed for this to move forward. We've dealt with registrations previously. So what we're really considering here is the relationship to policy under the regional plan. It's gone through the Heritage Advisory Committee, and as such, we're okay to move ahead. Tyson's nodding his head vigorously, so it sounds like I've got that covered off for him.
You are his boss, Ms. Green, so you would have to do that regardless, but that is excellent. So this will be, when we go to public hearing on this, this will be on the whole kit and caboodle for saving the heritage and approving the buildings as per the NPS amendments that we already approved. That is important.
Yeah.
To understand that. Perfect. No, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Green.
thank you. And sorry, Tyson. Not sure what's going on with the audio there. I bet you'll figure it out. Anything from other members at all on that item? No? Call for the question then.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Not seeing anyone. All right, so moving on to Western Comment Advisory Committee, we have none. Now, motion, this was Councillor Moore, and she is not here at the moment, and I don't think she's been able to get back in. So
I could certainly put this on the floor, maybe Councillor Cuddle or Councillor Mason, but I certainly support it. So I'm happy to put it on the floor for Councillor Morris. I don't know if she'd want to wait.
right, there is, and clerk, there was another motion, I believe, sent. Is it the same one that's on the agenda, or were there changes to the motion that's on?
See in the chat here, it's a revised motion.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So this is the current. So if you want to read the revised motion, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, as long as our legal beagle says it's okay relative to what's published online. But okay, I'll move that Halifax and West Community Council recommend that Halifax Regional Council direct the CAO to consider, through the ongoing zoning review initiated by Regional Council on March 23rd, 2021, changes to the C2C Dutch Village Road mixed use zone. Any changes should improve safety for pedestrians and vehicles and create space for landscaping, street trees, and active transportation infrastructure. The review should consider site triangles, building setbacks, and lot coverage requirements.
Second.
I think Ms. Cuddle had her hand up first.
That's fine.
Yeah. So second by Councillor Cuddle. And Councillor Cuddle, did you have a comment?
Oh, just that I'm very glad to see this come forward as well. I think as we're looking at increasing density and creating street walls, we got to also accommodate trees and active transportation and all the other uses that we want to have happen in our right of way. So I think this is a worthwhile report to have come to us.
Great. Thank you very much. And Councillor Cleary, thanks for putting that on the floor. And any further comments from members? Seeing none, I'll call for the question on this item.
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Seeing none. All right, that passes, and I know Councillor Morris will be happy to hear. So there are no in-camera items, there are no added items. Public participation, we have no speakers signed up for public participation. And just a reminder that in order to have signed up to speak, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. the business day prior to the hearing. Yeah, so the date of our next meeting is August 24th, 2021. And I ask for adjournment.
Adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. We are adjourned. Thank you, colleagues, and I will see you again very soon.
Thanks, staff.